Alright guys, so I want to film a quick emergency video for you. The market is selling off hard. The S&P 500 selling off, the NASDAQ selling off very heavily yesterday as well, and of course Bitcoin and our beloved altcoins are selling off majorly as well. Now the main reason for this is because Trump is back in the news talking about tariffs, which will go officially live on March 4th, which is a few days from now.
We're on time with the tariffs, and it seems like that's moving along very rapidly. We've been mistreated very badly by many countries, not just Canada and Mexico. We've been taken advantage of. We were led by, in some cases, fools, because anybody that would sign documents like they signed, where they were able to take advantage of the American people, like the other countries that did this, I blame our leadership for allowing it to happen. So the tariffs will go forward, yes, and we're going to make up a lot of territory. All we want is reciprocal. We want reciprocity. We want to have the same. So if somebody charges us, we charge them. It's very simple, but it'll be very good for our country. Our country will be extremely liquid and rich again.
So about a month ago, when Trump initially introduced this idea of tariffs on Canada and Mexico at 25%, the market sold off heavily, and then it kind of rebounded once he said, hey, we're going to negotiate with Canada and Mexico. Now, the talks were put off for about a month so they could renegotiate. I know Canada and Mexico both sent police officers to their border, which was part of the negotiation, and then they would be helping to fight, the war on drugs. But there was going to be a new tariff at some point, and it was going to be some percentage. I don't think it's going to be 25%. He doesn't say exactly here, but whatever other countries are charging, the U.S. will be charging right back. So if Canada and Mexico both do 5 or 10%, the United States will probably do the same amount. So I do think the market is overreacting a little bit right now, but it's just kind of unsure. The market's very unsure of what's going to happen next. Now, Bitcoin is continuing to nuke right now. It's been down like $1,000 since I started this video. The S&P 500 is continuing to nuke hard as well, and that's the main reason. The S&P 500 is overbought, and because of this, tech stocks, regular stocks are selling off, and that's really causing a downward effect on risk assets like crypto as well. Even though, altcoins have been bleeding down 70, 80, 90% for the past month, it seems, the S&P 500 was just hitting all-time highs, just a couple days ago, last week, it hit new all-time highs again. So it's really oversold and is due for correction, which the sad part is that alts were already corrected 70% by the time this is happening. So I do think we're going to get to a point, and I'm going to read a little tweet in a second. I do think we're going to get to a point where alts are down so much already that they're most likely to bounce before the S&P 500 and before Bitcoin even bounces. So I think we're going to see a relief bounce at some point in altcoins before the rest of the market and the bigger indexes. So the S&P 500 going down hard right now. Bitcoin going down hard right now. Nvidia as well, which is a big one, the biggest tech stock, and kind of like is bigger than the entire crypto market right now in terms of market cap. This is not looking very good when we have earnings and AI is kind of such a big sector, and Nvidia holds up the largest amount of the NASDAQ and the S&P 500. So unfortunately, you can see here on Nvidia, which has earnings, I believe, tomorrow, we've had a market structure break here where we're making lower highs. We've broken below the structure on the high time frame daily chart, and now we're heading lower. So it doesn't look amazing for Nvidia, especially with the whole DeepSeek news last month, where Nvidia now has to report on quarter earnings, talk about where they're going to head in the future, and how DeepSeek is going to kind of play into their whole business model, because it seems like AI is a little bit overinflated right now, especially with Nvidia's price. And since DeepSeek can do it for a fraction of the price, they might have to talk about that in earnings tomorrow, which also coincides with the NASDAQ selling off very heavily. A lot of bad news happening all at once. Unfortunately, this is coinciding with the Bybit hack and everything. So a lot of bad news happening, but I do think we end the quarter or the next couple months higher. Every time we've come down below this $92,500 level on the 3-day chart, we've wicked back above by the end of the candle. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, arguably 7 times now we have head below. And because of all these candles being built up, there's a lot of money, there's a lot of stop losses, there's a lot of liquidity below these candles. And there is one on the daily chart. If we go to the daily chart, there is one below here at $85,000, which is when we initially came up and tested this new all-time high back in December. So I think at some point we probably do head down and take out this money here at $85,000, which means more pain in the short term. So I think we might have a little bit of an underside retest, come up to $92,000 before we head back down towards $85,000, and then hopefully reclaim that level. Now, I do think there's a slight possibility we could come down here, but it's very minimal. I think the possibility that we come down to $73,000 is less likely. I think we'd probably go to $85,000, take out all the money right here, alts continue to go down and then we head higher. But there is still a possibility this happens. I just think it's a little bit less likely. Now, Ari Paul has a pretty good take. He says, my market take, equities in for 4 to 15 months of pain, all against 9 months, tied to deflationary government policies, tariffs, and massive layoffs mostly. Then it's a political question. Does Trump admin capitulate and turn severely inflationary? In vast majority of similar cases in history, the answer was yes, but just a low confidence guess to me currently. What does this mean for crypto? I continue to think that crypto and equities are on different cycle rhythms, but that doesn't negate shorter term correlation. Alts probably follow equities down at least at first, but they're already down so much, even versus 2021 prices, they may bottom well before equities. I think Bitcoin will continue to act like a blend of gold and S&P 500. If gold remains strong, then that would suggest Bitcoin would outperform losing equities, but maybe not by much. A retrace to 73 to 77,000 seems plausible. I'd probably add there. I remain confident the crypto bull market's not over, but this is looking increasingly different from prior cycles, maybe substantially slower and longer. My base case is that crypto will lead the general macro inflation turn, so maybe crypto bull run resumes in 6 months and equities turn up in 9. The dates given are just indications of my guesstimates. I place no weight on the exact timeframes. So that's a pretty good take where, crypto is down so much and it moves so much faster, especially with leverage, that it might bottom out before equities do. And then it, bounces a lot sooner as well. And then we have Altcoin Psycho saying, never seen such a divergence between institutional versus retail sentiment. Every institution I know is max bullish on DeFi, yet retail sentiment is rock bottom. Related, most institutions I've chatted with don't care about memes and consider it fad, akin to the early 2000s penny stock boom. People need to realize that up until a month ago, the SEC was actively waging war on every large player in crypto. Institutions are just getting started here, and this is not priced in yet, in my opinion. Don't forget that Nvidia's market cap alone is worth more than the total crypto market cap. So that's what I was saying. Nvidia is already bigger than all of crypto combined. So there's a divergence going on right now where retail sentiment, we are feeling the max pain right now, but institutions are just getting started. So just last week, the SEC dropped all the cases against Robinhood, against XRP, against Coinbase, against Binance. So all these cases are being dropped against the SEC. The war on crypto is now over. Just the macro environment at the same time is not looking amazing. So what does this mean? Well, it just means that at some point later this year, crypto will be better off because all these good things are happening for crypto. We're just so tied to traditional stocks and the equities as well right now that it's unfortunately we are heading down right now while this good news is coming out about the SEC about the war on crypto being over. Altcoin Daily also shared this where Tommy Lee gave this 2025 price prediction for Bitcoin. I will say this was about a month ago, but the price is about the same right now, and he says this.
For those folks who are watching who are not in Bitcoin or are thinking about buying Bitcoin at these prices, are you saying that this is a fair and good price to get in, or are you saying wait because you think it's going farther down?
Bitcoin is something you need to be long-term focused. I don't think anyone's going to lose money buying here at 90. If they're trying to time this, maybe they'll get lucky and it goes to 70. But to me, Bitcoin could be significantly higher this year, maybe 200, 250. So I think 90 is still a good entry point.
And then Miles Deutscher also shares some pretty good points. He says, the launch of Pumpfun is directly correlated to the destruction of the altcoin market versus Bitcoin. The reason we've seen no major alt season across majors is because the speculative capital that would have once poured into the top 200 assets instead decided to jump the gun and fled into on-chain low caps instead. The early birds and insiders got insanely rich from this, and truthfully, there was a lot of money to be made, and there still is. It isn't going away. But most retail who entered late lost, as is the case with most altcoin cycles. But unlike 2022, where the losses were limited to mostly centralized exchange altcoins with solid liquidity, instead, they got stuck into illiquid on-chain memes, which quickly retraced 70-80%. Thus, it became a wealth destruction event much greater than the early 2022 bear, Luna aside, even though Bitcoin and some major altcoins are still in a macro bull trend. Understanding this, it's clear to see why the sentiment is so poor. Pumpfun fundamentally changed the game, arguably for the worse. And he also shares this other post saying Pumpfun created insane alt dispersion, hyper gambling culture, and brought in a bunch of bad actors who extracted billions in liquidity. That money is never coming back to the space. The Bitcoin ETFs are great for Bitcoin adoption, but eradicate the wealth effect we've seen in past cycles where Bitcoin pumps and profits move down the risk curve. So I think everyone has just kind of caught on to the trend where, in previous cycles we've had Bitcoin pump and then it goes down to, more strong altcoins and then down into meme coins. However, there's two things that happen at first. One, everyone just skipped, that middle area where it goes into ETH and other alts and just went straight to the bottom for, meme coins on Pumpfun. At the same time, the Bitcoin ETFs brought a bunch of money into Bitcoin, but the Bitcoin ETFs aren't moving money from Bitcoin into, these lower cap coins because they're in Bitcoin ETFs, which are TradFi investment vehicles. So all the money that would have naturally gone from Bitcoin, on centralized exchanges, if you bought Bitcoin as a large whale before, you can then easily buy other coins on centralized exchanges like Binance, and you could easily just, buy lower risk assets. Now it's stuck in, TradFi assets like Bitcoin ETFs, which aren't, actual Bitcoin. And the people who are buying Bitcoin, in Bitcoin ETFs aren't then going to take that money out of Bitcoin ETFs and easily transfer into our favorite, coins like Ondo or, Mantra or whatever it might be. So it's a lot harder for money to move from Bitcoin ETFs into these low cap altcoins. And thus, at the same time, Pumpfun made it a lot more attractive to get the returns that we were all seeking. But most people lost a lot of money in Pumpfun, and only a few made a lot of money. So we have two different sides of the same coin, where Bitcoin ETFs made it harder for money to flow into altcoins. And then Pumpfun also took a lot of the money that would go from these mid-cap altcoins and just put it into these very illiquid on-chain coins for these huge returns, but only for a few people. So what does this mean for the future of altcoins? Well, it just means I think you have to be a lot more selective with the altcoins that you buy going ahead. I think the coins that we will see do the best are probably the ones that the U.S. government is actively investing in. And, through that, it's Donald Trump's World Liberty Finance. So I think anything that's, a World Liberty Finance type coin, one that they're actively buying, is one to be investing in, because I think they'll probably come back. They have the greatest chance of coming back. That, and also Made in America tokens, I think, could have a big comeback as well. So unfortunately, Solana is one that's getting hit the hardest right now. It's down at $136, and it was $290 just a month ago. So I think Solana is the one that's getting the hardest, but I think a lot of the Made in America coins are going to be the ones that see the biggest benefit. So XRP, maybe at some point Solana, but it's hard to say right now. Cardano, Chainlink, Stellar, Avalanche, Sui. I think these, Made in America altcoins will probably get some kind of tax break at some point, or they'll, seem a lot more attractive in the future. But also the ones that World Liberty Finance are buying. Now, if you go to World Liberty Finance on Arkham, you can see there's a lot of coins that are being sent to them. But what you want to see is the one that they actively buy. So you want to go to their transfers, and you want to see, they're buying ETH, they're buying Move, they're buying Tron, they're buying Ondo. So the ones that they're actively buying are the ones that you want to be looking at. And whatever they're accumulating over a period of time. So, they're accumulating Ethereum, they're accumulating Move, they're accumulating Ondo. So these coins that they keep buying over time and they're invested in, I think are probably the best bets. And so we're going to continue to watch these World Liberty Finance coins, because, if they're buying it right now, then they don't think the market, the bull run is obviously over. So they're probably the best bet right now. What does this mean for our current altcoins? Well, it means you kind of have to be selective, and you might have to bite the bullet and sell some altcoins that you don't necessarily think will come back or have any value. Now, it doesn't mean that they can't come back and have small pumps, but a lot of coins, it might be better off to sell at a loss, consolidate into, stable coins, and then buy the coins that you think will have a greater chance of coming back in the future. Now, for me, one of these was WIF. This was one of my favorite meme coins, and obviously meme coins have taken the biggest hit. WIF is at 51 cents, and I remember talking about it a lot when it was around the $2 to $3 range. But since then, it's just been down only for WIF, and this is one that I had to sell my position. We had this huge event, and Coinbase, listed it, and then it was just down only. And so once Coinbase, the biggest exchange for retail users being onboarded, sold it after it got listed, I was like, okay, there's no more great catalyst for WIF. And that's the thing about this current market, is we have no clear catalyst or things to look forward to. Before we had the Bitcoin ETFs, then we had, the election, then we had Trump getting elected and what he was going to do for crypto, and then we had the inauguration, and now it's just like there's no clear thing that we're waiting for collectively as an industry that we can look forward to. That is a reason to put money into the market. And because there's no clear reason to put money in the market, everyone's taking money out of the market and even shorting, which is why altcoins are down so badly. So, for example, WIF is one of the coins that I have just cut at a loss, and I took a major loss on WIF because it's going to go down here at some point, probably towards this 32-cent range. So it's one that I had to take a major loss on, and it might be time to consider what coins you can take a loss on and put that money somewhere else for better capital efficiency. Because at some point the market will come back. You just have to find the altcoins that they're going to come back to, the most. And so for me, I think it's going to be Made in America coins and also World Liberty Finance coins. But I kind of want to make a quick emergency video to update why the market is falling so bad, what's happening, what we can expect with different altcoins, how we can consolidate our portfolios into maybe better performing altcoins for the future, and what we can kind of look forward to in the future. So I do think, the bull market isn't over. I do think we probably have more pain ahead, unfortunately. But I think after that, we do get some big bounces. We do continue higher. Obviously, Bitcoin, I think, is still going to go much higher, at least 150K this cycle. And maybe it's also time to consider start buying some Bitcoin as well. You don't have to buy an entire Bitcoin, but putting Bitcoin in our portfolio probably is one that's going to help, have a more solid portfolio. Obviously, this isn't Bitcoin buzz, it's altcoin buzz, so we prefer to buy altcoins. But Bitcoin's been the best, held up asset so far this cycle in crypto. And if we bought Bitcoin, we'd only be down, what is this? We'd only be down so far 18% versus 90% in all of our altcoins. So I do think I'll probably be buying some Bitcoin as well as some of these made in America altcoins once the market does settle down a little bit more. But yeah, that's my plan for right now. We're going to continue to watch over the next day or so what happens with the market, with Nvidia, earnings tomorrow, with what the S&P 500 does today and tomorrow as the market opens. So yeah, watch out for these levels. Watch out for $85,000. See what Bitcoin does around there. If it continues to consolidate for a couple of days, then it's probably a good time to start buying and looking for altcoins to put back into your portfolio. But that is the video for today, guys. I hope this has helped you out a little bit, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.